It's been a while since you felt you could take a shot at Georgia and just not get punched back in the face. Been there, done that. That's a comment in Athlon from an assistant coach or a head coach in the SEC or around there talking about the Dogs. It's been a while. And he's saying you might not get punched back in the face. And this is something we've been talking about lately from the Dogs is that, you know, they're not 2021 and 22 Georgia, and they're probably not 23. Although I think 21 and 2 were different and even more elite than 23. Although 23 was better than 24, and yet 24 won the SEC championship, and yet 24 had so much grit and all of those things. What will it be like in 25? Are you going to be able to punch these guys and get? And can you punch Georgia? Or is this one of these things where if you punch them, they're going to go for your throat? They're going to go for your throat, okay? But can they complete the task? Are we ripping out, Adam's apples and all these things? I don't know. That's what we've got to find out about this Georgia team, and I think there's reason to have doubt. I put it like this though, guys, is that globally speaking, out there in college football, the sport does not have the talent for some reason, it seems, it had 5 years ago. So 5 years ago was 2020. So you were in the middle of LSU 19, Alabama 2020, Georgia 21 and 22. And Georgia 21 and 22, did something that neither of those teams could do. I mean, LSU at 18, it took them a while to get going. I mean, it took Joe Burrow a second or two. Go look at his numbers against Georgia in 18. They were not the numbers they were in 19. I can tell you that right now. But he made game-winning plays with his feet. Who's Joe Burrow? Who is the quarterback that's Joe Burrow right now? Arch Manning? I mean, could be Arch. Who is, Tua? Who is... I don't even know. It was a better time in football. Who is Jake Fromm? I would argue possibly Gunnar Stockton. So I think the talent has regressed, it seems, in college football, particularly at quarterback. I don't know why, but sometimes these things ebb and flow. I remember very clearly in 2012, going into the 13th season, I was at SEC Media Days when Johnny Manziel did his interview outside of the big room at the piano. Those who know. The real ones know. But that season, you had Aaron Murray, Zach Mettenberger, Johnny Manziel. I can't remember. A.J. McCarron. I mean, you had some really good quarterbacks that were in the league. Just those four guys alone. And, national championship winning quarterback, a guy who went on to win the Heisman, a guy that was the SEC's, and I believe still is the SEC's leading all-time passer. I mean, that was a good group. And the league was dominated by a really good quarterback. Well, Nick Marshall won the SEC championship that season, a transfer defensive back from Georgia. I'll talk about this stuff and more in our 2025 preview. Here's a sneak preview of that's just the cover, okay? I'm just going to go very quickly through, what the magazine looks like. Just very briefly, I'm going to put the link down below. If you want to get a magazine, you can also take advantage right now and get, 3 months for the price of one and the magazine for free by signing up to Dawg Post today. Again, that's a $60 value for $15. You get Dawg Post through this part of the season. By signing up today. Our buddies at Red Zone will have this exclusively. It will be exclusively at Red Zone. It's the only place you're going to get it on retail. You can get it online or at Red Zone. It will be at Red Zone probably at the beginning of, at the end of next week or the beginning of the week after that. It's at the printers and kind of waiting on them. So this is going to start getting shipped out next week. So everyone who listened to the late June, I appreciate it. But let me get back to things. Take advantage of that stuff down below. 3 months for the price of one, and you get the magazine for free. Look, so my view of the world here is that there's a contingent of people that are undervaluing Georgia's situation. That is my view. I've come to that conclusion after rewatching the Sugar Bowl, after writing the preview. And that, you know, this is a program that is not as deep as it once was, but nobody is. I mean, it's like comparing television ratings today to what they were in the 90s or the 80s. Well, we know now that streaming, what you're watching right now, has surpassed broadcast and cable in May of 2025 for the first time ever. So it's like saying, oh, well, the NBA's, numbers are down. I mean, everybody's numbers are down on broadcast. It's not the same thing. Everybody in college football is not at the same level as they were. Why is that? I mean, the answer to the question is definitely the portal. But, it's a new world that we're living in, and we're having to get to, we're going to have to get to home plate, and we're probably at third right now. We've been going through things here lately. We're probably at third, okay? So we only got one more base to go, but we got to get there. And in the meantime, you're seeing programs like Georgia not being able to play, 11 defensive linemen. Is that excessive? I don't necessarily think it has been in the past. 11's maybe a little high, but you get my point. I mean, when Nazir Stackhouse was your third string guy in 2022, and you had guys like Barrett Alexander getting sacks, and, Branson Robinson scored 2 touchdowns in the national championship game against TCU, we're not where we were. But the punch in the face thing, some of that's an attitude, but I think it's really about depth. Georgia, it's hard to say this. Georgia was down in 24. They just were. Are they going to be down in 25? I don't know that they are. I don't know. I mean, I think everything's relative. I mean, is Ohio State going to be down in 25? Down relative to winning the national championship, perhaps, but down compared to Michigan? I don't know. Well, that's a bad comparison. Down compared to Penn State? I don't know. I don't know about that. It looks to me, in terms of just straight up talent, that you have probably 4 teams, but certainly 3. I would say 4. You've got Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, and I would argue as well Alabama. Okay, and then you have some other teams that are on the periphery of that, or you could possibly include in that group, which would be Oregon, Clemson. I don't think LSU, but we'll see. And so, it looks like Tennessee took a step back. Why? Well, I mean, they lost their starting quarterback after spring practice. Like, that's not one thing I read from Ross Dillon earlier today at Yahoo. He does a really good job at that. Ross's job is to cover football on the national level, and I'll talk about this later. But one thing he was talking about is this committee that's getting the calendar right, or trying to. That has got to happen, because we're running around with our head cut off right now in college football. And, I'm just speaking as a business owner, as a person who covers it, right? I'm not talking about people who, do this and tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars are on the line. We've got to settle this thing down. You cannot have it that you have the SEC wanting a particular portal and then the Big Ten wanting another, and we never come to a conclusion. Big Ten is primarily on quarters. You see that in the Pac-12 too. What's left of the Pac? Well, the Pac-12 is because UW, UCLA, all the Western schools, a lot of them are on quarters. So that's what the Big Ten really wants. Whereas the rest of the world kind of is on semesters, and so you make a clean break just during the holidays. So that's one thing that's got to be figured out. But until you do that, you are going to still see some trepidation and some difficulty on this roller coaster ride that is college football. But in terms of punching back, I mean, y'all tell me what you think. I mean, Georgia punched Texas a lot last year. I mean, I think that the difference, I think what the coach, what the person, the insider is saying is true. I think it's up to Georgia to handle that problem. I mean, like, if you're the bully, go be the bully. And no one is ever going to feel sorry for Georgia. No one's ever going to feel sorry for Alabama or Texas or Ohio State. And people, when those teams lose, they celebrate those losses. And that's what it is. When you're really good to great, and you've been that for a long time. And Texas has not won the national championship. Those other 3 programs have this decade. So I'm including Texas because I think they, belong in there. But I don't think it's like last year I kept saying Ohio State should win the national championship. They have the most talented team. We don't know right now who the most talented team is. I want to watch the first, say, 3 weeks of the season before I say, hey, it should be this team. The math has changed. The arithmetic is different. We don't know what we don't know right now because a lot of the sport is, are you going to get hot at the end? In order to get hot at the end, you have to have playmakers. Georgia really did not have great playmakers last year. They were consistently hurt. ETN was consistently hurt. The playmakers at wide receiver, they just were not consistent. They were consistently inconsistent, which just means you're inconsistent. It's not good enough play on the offensive line. Now you're seeing you've got new receivers, which will make a big difference. You've got an offensive line that, if you keep it healthy, and then you have a different look at running back. Way too many injuries at running back a season ago. Just way too many. Just way too many injuries at running back and on the offensive line. If you're talking about, punching people back, that's an aggression thing. That's setting the tone. I think Kirby and them know how to do that. The question is, do they have the depth to do that? You tell me what you think down below. Take advantage of our offer while you can. Thanks for watching.